Hi guys, and welcome to the Business as Unusual show. It is Wednesday. I can't believe we are only halfway through the week. What is going on this week? There's been lots and lots of Zooming. I did a talk this morning, virtually perfect content. It was virtually perfect. It went wrong a little bit, but yeah, no, we won't talk about that too much. But the virtual world and how you can deliver content to make it stand out and make it awesome, which was really good fun. I think we had 100 people turn up for that as well. We maxed out our Zoom limit. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Luke. I'm the CEO of Sleeping Giant Media and Giant Campus. So if you're on our LinkedIn, if you're on our YouTube channel, please do hang around, check out the content. We've got loads of ideas around how to make those first steps into digital marketing, or to take your digital marketing to the next level. So do hang around and check out that content if you are on these channels. Let's going to have a quick look at what's going on in the news this week before we introduce our guest for the show. So first off, it's a week that saw Manchester and South Yorkshire join Liverpool in tier 3 of local lockdowns. The second largest football club in Manchester, that's going to annoy some Man United fans, announces losses of 70 million since June as a direct result of the pandemic. So that's essentially one Harry Maguire. I'll let you judge whether he's still worth 70 million. Across the pond, legal expert Jeffrey Toobin is shockingly suspended from the New Yorker for allegedly, there is photographic and video evidence of this, breaking the #1 rule on a work Zoom call. If you haven't seen that, I'll let you Google that later, because wow, just wow. Anyway, it's Wednesday. Let's get over this Zoom fatigue and get down to another Business as Unusual. Hi guys, and welcome to the Business as Unusual show. For those of eagle-eyed viewers, you are going to be asking, this is a different background to normal. That is a different background to normal. I have moved. I have set up shop in my gym. I have a gym that's located at the end of my garden, and I feel like it's the only place that I can hide away to get a little bit of peace from the kids that do generally tend to walk on the show, as you've probably seen in the past, but also allow me to to crack on with my work down here. The downside to it this morning, however, is about 20 minutes before going live with my talk, a giant tree fell down just outside, which scared the life out of me. And so, yeah, there's the slight sort of high risk element to what's going on. But yes, do feel free to say hi in chat for those of you joining us who had any questions that we have that you have going on during the show. Please do put them in the chat, and we can pose them to our guests. So without further ado, let's introduce our guest, Julie Barry from Rift. How are we doing?
Yeah, I am very well, thank you, Luke, and thank you for inviting me to join you this afternoon. I'm really excited.
Good. Welcome. Well, no, very good to have you on the show. Can you do a bit of introduction to yourself and also to the business, please?
Yeah, of course. Well, my name is Julie Barry. I work for Rift in the research and development tax credit company. So I am head of business development. So I've spent a lot of time recently looking at different ways to develop the business and to bring new business in. But generally, I spend my time speaking to those that are interested in finding out a bit more about the R&D scheme, trying to work out whether it's something that's suitable for them or perhaps suitable for their clients or for a lot of our member organisations and trade associations that we work with. We spend a lot of time just generally raising awareness and telling people what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. Something else, I don't know if you can hear this by my mic, but something else has just fallen down outside. So that's good. I'm slightly in fear during the show, which is it's a new thing. I don't normally have that same level of fear during a live show, but as ever, the show must go on. You touched upon the sort of the new business generation and how you've had to kind of adapt. What sorts of things are you doing differently at the moment because of the pandemic, because of the remote nature of the work that we're all involved with at the moment?
Well, nearly everything, to be honest, Luke. It has been a very, very interesting time, and we've been doing this for about 10 years now, and we've got some real tried and tested ways of generating new business, and as I say, raising awareness. And it was predominantly face to face that was the most successful, because this is something we're talking about, people's tax here. So people like to get the measure of you, and it's much easier to do that face to face.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was a lot of conferences, seminars, talks, networking events, that type of thing, which of course none of them are happening now in the face-to-face format. So we sort of paused and thought, okay, well, let's see how long this lasts. And when we realised pretty soon that it was going to last for a long time, we knew we had to just change everything, because we could no longer do what we'd always done. There was no choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what sort of what are those differences? What sort of things have you done differently, or how are you, what's replaced those channels that used to work for you?
There's a few things that we've done. Is obviously we have had to embrace a bit more of the digital world. We've had to embrace a lot more of the sort of emailing and remote contact in various different forms. A lot more on LinkedIn. That's proving to be very, very interesting, very useful as well. But I think the single most productive and most enjoyable aspect of it is really learning how to develop the existing relationships that you've got and make the most of them. And when I say that, it's not about take, it's about give. And I found that has been the biggest eye-opener. The people that you can really build a relationship with, and you can really understand their business and say, well, look, what can I do to help you? And what happens is they then turn around and say, and what can I do to help you? And so relationships that I've had for a while that have been very positive have suddenly taken on a whole new dimension, really. And it's become much tighter knit. And it's not just about, can I give you a contact, but often it's just about support and about, being able to have a rant at someone because they feel your pain or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
So that's been very, very interesting, and I've really enjoyed that aspect of this whole COVID situation.
Yeah. Do you think the situation has kind of made you and the business more efficient because of the, because you've had to kind of move to sort of more digital channels, or do you think it's just different?
No, I think it has made us more efficient. I think where we were doing what we've always done and it bringing a fair amount of success, you do get stuck in a bit of a rut of doing that. And I have to say that what it's like, limited resource, financial resource, human resource. Sometimes it's easier just to do what is going to work than to test something else in case it doesn't work. Yeah. And so that comfort zone went, and it was just like, how are we going to make this work? And I absolutely believe that going forward, because of this, we will be braver, and we have learned new skills, and we have realized new successes that we didn't realize before. Yeah. So I'd say, yes, it's certainly made us more efficient and a bit.
And a bit what, sorry?
And a bit bolder.
A bit bolder, yeah. That's great. That's really, really good to see. And I think that's kind of the message that we've been talking about a lot, really, is that almost there was the niche, I think, as you said, I think you talked about it, where some companies were kind of holding fire to sort of see if this was a storm that would pass, obviously all hoping that it would, but then it became sort of evident that it wasn't going to sort of move on quickly, and then it was a case of, right, we've got to reinvent, we've got to kind of think about kind of what to do next, which was obviously quite challenging, quite bold, and quite a lot of risk involved with it as well, because actually you just don't quite know what that might look like, but exciting at the same time.
It is. I think it's it does sort of raise the heart rate a little bit, because nothing's cheap. Everything costs money and time, and particularly in this type of environment, you do need to fail fast. Really, you need to know whether this is going to work or not pretty quickly. And there is a limited resource, as I say. You can't just do everything. So there has got to be quite a bit of intuition, bit of insight there as well, and learn from others. See what's working out there. Ask the people around you, because people are very, very generous, very generous with their own experiences and with their own skills and knowledge. I think we sometimes just feel like we need to have all the answers ourselves, and we sure don't.
Absolutely not. Yeah, particularly in this world that we're living in at the moment, it's just constantly evolving. We're going to go to our first little game of today, the tenuous link, which is credit where it's due, based on the sort of the loose connection with R&D tax credits. So this is not going to put you through your paces regarding tax credits, but we can find out more about that a little bit later on. Let's have a look at the first question. So 007 series of movies has one of the most iconic opening credits in cinema. What is the actor that plays 007 not allowed to do?
Wear a black tie in any other movie.
Is that right? Did not know that. Let's have a look. It is correct. Wear a black tie in any other movie. Good knowledge. Love that one. Okay, but
don't know where that came from.
No, that's impressive. It's impressive. I mean, it makes sense. It's a bit of a trademark, isn't it? What did Margaret Keane's husband steal credit for?
I have absolutely no idea, so I'm going to go with writing fiction.
Writing fiction. It is, in fact, her paintings, apparently. There's even an entire movie about it called Big Eyes. Would you believe it? Stolen the credit there. Unbelievable. On to the next question, number 3. What is the highest income tax on the Monopoly board? Are you a Monopoly fan? No.
No,
I struggle with Monopoly. I have an interest, and then about hour 2, I start to kind of get really fidgety. Hour 3, I'm like losing it, and I'm out.
I haven't played Monopoly since my children were young.
Yeah, well,
that was ago.
Yeah, I have to say the only thing that's become sort of more I've got to involve again is since we are now on the Monopoly board, our local Monopoly board, so we are a square. So I now obviously have to be getting back into my Monopoly game. But what do we think? What's the highest income tax on the Monopoly board?
I have no idea. I don't know. Let's say capital gains.
Capital gains. Let's have a look. It's a monetary value. It's £200 voted the most hated place to land in the game. Question number 4. Finish the quote. But in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except blank. So nothing in this world can be certain. Oh my gosh! Except Ben and Jerry's, except War and Peace, except Death and Taxes, except Starsky and Hutch. What do we think?
Well, I know the answer is Death and Taxes, but I want to say Starsky and Hutch.
Well, you are correct with your first one, but yeah, nothing can be said to be certain except for Starsky and Hutch. That's also, I think that's an equally valid quote as well. Question.
That's going to be the one going.
Question number 5, true or false? The end credits for Frozen contained this message: the views and opinions expressed by Kristoff in the film that all men eat their own boogers are solely his own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Walt Disney Company or filmmakers. What do you think? True or false?
True.
It is. I know this one. It is true. I read it. I laughed out loud a little bit. That is it. That is the tenuous link there. So I can't believe it, but oh no, we're not. I thought it just changed to 45. One of my clocks is faster than the other. We are nearly halfway through. You did a very good job with that quiz there. I was very impressed to see that Bond knowledge there. It was quite impressive. Are you a Bond fan?
No.
So how did you know that then?
No, do you know what? I know it's bizarre, but I am pretty sure that I've had that conversation with somebody this year at some point where they've raised that as a point. Wow. I can't even begin to think who it could possibly be, but someone somewhere, if they're seeing this, they can claim credit for that.
That's good knowledge, good pub quiz knowledge there. We are now, would you believe, at the halfway mark, gone classic, Mark Anthony. Right, yeah. So as we were talking before there about tax credits, can you just give everybody an explanation? Because I mean, they're huge, aren't they? But there's also like the government pot's not being fully utilised, or certainly the last time I was sort of talking about this, it's not being fully utilised or claimed by businesses, is it?
Absolutely, and I think it is. Well, you're absolutely right there. I think the reason that it's not claimed as much as it should be is because it's all very grey, very subjective, and when businesses start to look at it, they sort of go down a rabbit hole and think put that on the too difficult pile, I'll come back to it, and then they don't. Because it's not easy to identify, first of all, whether your activity qualifies, and then if you think it does, how do you put your claim together? How do you know what costs you can include? So again, it goes on there. That's a bit too difficult. I'll get back to that later. There are so many businesses we speak to who make the assumption that it's not for them, because what it's basically for is to reward businesses for innovation. And it's quite difficult for businesses to identify themselves as innovative unless they are specifically bringing something new to market. And in reality, the majority of the claims are just what we call sort of accidental R&D, where a business has had to do something innovative to do what they do well, to do it better, faster, cheaper, and particularly now, more sustainably.
I'm guessing. So, I mean, based on a sort of R&D claim, given that we are going through what we're going through as a world and as a country and as a sort of a business sort of group, there's obviously we're investing quite a lot in what we have to adapt to in order to stay ahead going into the new world. Does that fall as innovation as well? Is that something that you're going to expect to see in a year's time when you go through the claims process again for businesses?
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I would say is it won't be everything, and it won't be all of it in qualifying projects. But where businesses are having to redefine what they do, how they do it, and in doing so, they have had to go through a steep learning curve to learn how to do something better, differently. Where that knowledge isn't already available to them, and that's the key. Is that it's really about rewarding people for going through the learning curve. So if they've had to find a way of doing something completely different, completely new, and that's cost them time and money, and there's been an element of trial and error in it, it's certainly worth having a look, speaking to someone and just asking the question, does it qualify? Does this activity qualify? And if so, how much can I get
Julie,
back?
I'm going to throw that straight back at you. I did not do live shows before. It has taken me a long time to work out this tech. I've had to buy new technology to do it. How much can I claim? What do we think? A couple of thousand?
How does it work? Okay, so if you've bought, good question, Luke. If you've bought something off the shelf and the learning curve is for you to learn how to use it, unfortunately, you can't claim. If you have got something off the shelf and it doesn't work, doesn't do what you want it to do, or you've had to get several pieces of off the shelf kit and get them to join up together to deliver what you want to deliver, then the trial and error in making those several pieces of equipment work together and deliver what you want, that's where you would have the claim. And it would be for your time and for any other employees or experts that you've used within that, we could look at that. That's as well.
Cool. Although I believe that dividends, you can't do it with dividends, can you? I believe.
Spoke to the man who's claimed before.
I know. Well, I know my route. If someone's going to give me some money, then I generally try to understand how to make that happen. But I believe it's not dividends. So directors, if paying themselves by dividends isn't affected, I think.
You're absolutely right, because dividends already have a tax advantage to them. But your PAYE element of your salary, if indeed there is one, and your employees, anything that goes through PAYE, any additional external costs, materials, etc., that type of thing, we can look at all of that.
Fantastic, that makes a lot of sense. I've just realised this is the first time I've done the show here, and because of this tree that's fallen down, this morning. I've now got sunlight coming across here, so this is going to be interesting. An interesting end to the show, I suspect, as I get slowly blinded by the tree. There's a question in the chat from Amber. So, if you had to explain how important research and development is for a business in 20 seconds, how would you do it? I'm not going to time you, but just roughly 20 seconds.
No. I would say it's incredibly important, because if businesses are not innovating, they're standing still, therefore going backwards, because everyone around them is innovating. So I think particularly now, I think it is incredibly important that all businesses stay at the front of their sector and don't fall behind, because they're just so much technology, so much movement and innovation. If you are not embracing it, you are slowly falling behind and are going to disappear off the scene.
Absolutely, love that. So if you're not embracing it, you're slowly going to disappear and fall off the scene. Is a good quote. And speaking of quotes, see what I've done there. We're going to go to Stacey's quote. Just to get your take on these 3 different quotes. We have 3 up for grabs here. One basically is, do you like it, do you love it, or do you want to avoid it? So do you want to snog it, marry it, or avoid it? Those are the 3 choices. We'll go through each of the quotes and then you can have a look at what we've got. So first up, quote number 1. For every reason it's not possible, there are hundreds of people who have faced the same circumstances and succeeded. Jack Cranfield there, first one. How are we thinking? Does it resonate or? Yeah, okay, cool. On to the next one. Yeah, okay. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Steve Jobs.
Love it.
Love it. She's okay. That's
Love that
the front runner so far. Quote number 3: I'd rather regret the things I've done than regret the things that I haven't done. Lucille Ball. What do we think? So we've got 3 there.
So the first one I would avoid. The second one I would marry. And the third one, yeah, I'd snog it.
Okie dokie. Well, I'll tell you what, that was pretty decisive right there. Normally there's a bit of back and forth, but you were pretty clear on that. So
sorry.
No, that's good. No, I like it. No,
I love a quote.
Well, clearly you love a quote.
I absolutely love a quote.
What other quotes have you got in your mind that you sort of either live by or sort of find that kind of that you say to yourself, or you think about whilst you're kind of trying to motivate yourself?
There's 2 that I think are absolutely brilliant. One is, you wouldn't worry what other people thought about you if you realised how seldom they did. I think that is a great one. And I think that was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Okay, nice, like it. That's a good quote.
Yeah, and the other one that I absolutely love is, there are 2 rules to stress management. Rule 1, don't sweat the small stuff. Rule 2, it's all small stuff.
Very good. Yeah, totally. I mean, you've got to keep it in perspective, really, haven't we? I mean, you know, there's some crazy things happening in this world at the moment, but for most of the time, there's small things that we can kind of not kind of worry about, which is nice as well. No, it's really good. And Steve Jobs, the one, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. What made you sort of jump to that one? What was the sort of the thought behind that?
Do you know, I think that not everybody, many people are sort of weighed down by what they perceive to be expectation from those around them, from the world, that there's something you need to conform with. And I'm not a massive fan of a lot of the sort of Facebook, social media, Instagram. Look at my wonderful life. How bad is your life compared to my life?
Is it the hate like? Is it that there was that advert about essentially that everyone's posting of going on holiday, and you obviously hate the fact that they're doing it, but you have to like it. It's a kind of an obligatory kind of thing that you have to do.
Yeah. So I don't do any of it. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't do any of it. So I am a proper old fuddy-duddy moaning about something of which I know nothing. However, I do see the fallout of it. And, I've had people who've been very, very upset about the state of their life because looking at their friends and their, people that are just roughly an acquaintance, they don't really know them, and they think their life is better. don't waste your time. Exactly as it says, live in someone else's life. Just live your best life. Be happy. That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
It's not about being better than the next person. It's about what makes you tick and makes your heart sing.
Very, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And again, the irony of as well as some of the social aspects is obviously it's the perception or the creation of what is the kind of that great life, not necessarily the reality of it. The grass always seems greener, but actually it's everybody's got their own challenges, and focusing on their own lives is important. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, who wants to be the same as everyone else? Stand out from the crowd. Be a bit different.
Absolutely.
Be you.
So I mean, taking that point around standing out and kind of moving that from a personal into kind of a business kind of context, what do businesses need to do in this new world to stand out? What sorts of things do you think will sort of help them separate themselves from the pack?
I think that I already touched on the move with the times thing, and I think that that's very important. I think for now it's people not waiting for this to pass, but work out how we do the best we can in the situation we're in, and and I think that for businesses to be in a sort of stuck in their ways, just doing what they've always done and hoping that this will pass and they can go back to doing that, I think is just foolhardy. I think you need to embrace it, and you need to find new, more interesting ways of getting out there and showing people what you do. And and I think that there's a big thing in there as well about sort of the integrity of it, and just doing the best you can by your teams, by your clients, by your staff, by the people around you in what very difficult circumstances. And I think the businesses that can embrace that mindset will be the ones that will survive, because they will pull together.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's already, we've seen lots of businesses try. I think you mentioned it before. It's not about trying to leverage existing contacts. It's more about trying to add value, trying to offer that support, and relying on almost reciprocity, sort of doing something nice and someone else will then do something nice sort of for you. And I think we can, there's been some almost stark or contrasting where some businesses are really clearly trying to sort of take advantage, and some are actually really, really kind of helping and adding value.
Well, I think in the early days, there was a lot on LinkedIn that you could see where businesses were straight in there with, oh, this is going to be a horrendous time for you. We can offer you this and we can offer you that. And I was very aware in the circles in which I moved that people were put off by that. They found it distasteful. Yeah. Whereas when people were offering help and sort of free support and just help and guidance, that was gratefully received, and I think that set the tone.
Yeah, and hopefully it's that it's those sorts of things that come back and pay dividends in the long term, isn't it? By sort of offering a helping hand in what could be a very difficult situation for a lot of people and a lot of businesses, that you then see the benefit in the long term as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Brilliant. Kaz in the chat: honesty, integrity will never. I will never eat in a Wetherspoons again. Yes, they did not behave properly, did they, at all? Being sort of particularly over the top with their staff, and it's those sorts of things that will separate, hopefully the sort of the great businesses that will then operate with integrity and honesty, that will then benefit in the long term. Thanks for that, Kaz. That was awesome. Julie, we are unbelievably out of time. I can't believe where the time has gone, but thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there any other businesses that you wanted to say hi to, or final kind of shout outs for people?
I would just say, yes, anybody that is doing anything that they think may be perceived as innovative, speak to someone about whether you can claim R&D tax relief on it, because you may well be missing out on something that your competitors are benefiting from.
Absolutely. No, it's a really good point. And thank you very much for joining us. We are absolutely running out of time, but Julie made a fantastic point there. The R&D tax credit is something that I could definitely recommend for businesses to explore, because it does hopefully help you out financially when you kind of reclaim some of that money that you've already spent on R&D tax credits. So yeah, definitely worth investigating for anybody that hasn't done so already. That is it from us, guys. We will be back again next Wednesday. We are approaching the 50 live show mark. I think that's in a couple of weeks' time, or maybe a little bit longer. I've now completely lost track of where we are generally in the world today. So do tune in next week and the coming weeks for the big 50th show. We have a few initial kind of plans in place for that. But as I said, if you're following, you like the content, please do like and subscribe to the channels for any of the additional marketing content, and obviously you'll get notified as and when we go live next. I hope you enjoyed the show. We're living in some strange times, but for all of us, it's just business as unusual.